welcome back to Chapter 6. Well, we are starting Chapter 6 today, roots and radical expressions. So we are talking about finding something to the nth root. So we have here 5 squared equals 25. Okay, so 5 is a square root of 25. And remember, this is your base, this is your exponent. Exponent tells you how many times you multiply. So this would be like 5 times 5 equals 25. So there are two numbers, or there's two 5s that multiply to get 25. Okay, here 5 is a cube root of 125. Here's a cube, so there are 3 5s that multiply to get 125. Here, 5 to the 4th. We have 5 as a 4th root of 625. We have 4 5s that multiply to get 625. Okay, and then if we have 5 to the 5th, that is 5 is a 5th root of 3,125. Okay, so we have 5 squared can get 25, but we can also kind of work backwards. And we're going to talk about this into our index and our radical sign and our radicand. So let me kind of talk about this. So if n is odd, that means there's one real nth root, okay? And the root of b, and that's denoted by the radical form n square roots of b. So if n is odd, this little number out here, if that's odd, that means there's only one real root, okay? If n is even, that means there can be either 2 real roots or no real roots, okay? So if 2 is even, and if it's positive, you have 2 real roots. If n is even and a is negative, that means there's no real roots. Because remember, like, you can't take the square root of a negative number. There's no real roots, okay? So this little index represents your root, okay? So if we looked here, if we did 625, we could say 4, and it would go inside of the radical, not on the outside, inside the little check mark. Okay, inside the radical sign, 4 of 625, and that equals 5. So what this says is, what's the 4th root of 625? So what number do we multiply 4 times to get 625? And it's 5, okay? So like here, 5 to the 5th, or so if we wanted to figure that out, we would do the root of 5 of 3,125. So the 5th root of 3,125 is 5. Okay, so let's practice finding some of these numbers. So here's a good thing that maybe would be good to write down in your notebook. Remember, it's in blue. So if n is an odd number, so the root, if the root is an odd number, there's only one real root. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's positive, it doesn't matter if it's negative. If n is odd, there's one real root. Okay, if n is an even number, so what is the root on the little radicand? If n is an even number, then there's either 2 real roots or no real roots. If a is positive, there's 2. If a is negative, there's none. Okay, so let's practice on finding these. And we can use a calculator for these guys. I'm not going to do all of them just because we don't need to, and it's all written out, and this is in your Google Classroom, but I'm going to show you how to find this using a calculator. So the first one, we have 0.008. So it's asking what are the real cube roots. Okay, so we need to know, well, cube is 3, right? So basically, we are finding the cubed root of 0.008. So you know how we use Desmos for the graphing calculator? Well, guess what? There's a Desmos scientific calculator. So we just need to go to our Desmos scientific calculator, and kabam! It's amazing. Equally as amazing as the graphing calculator. So we need the cube root. So if you see here, it's and then inside the radical. That's what we're going to put right there. And if you notice, it has a little box that comes here and then a box that comes here. So we're looking for the cubed root. So we're going to put a 3 of 0.008. So 0.008. Okay, and if we look over here, it gives us our answer, 0.2. What's awesome about this is we can even convert that into a fraction, okay? If it's a real number, or a rational number, so that's 1 over 5. Or we can just leave it as 0.2. Amazing, okay? The next one I think was negative 1,000. So we're going to figure out the cube root of negative 1,000, okay? Well, since 3 is odd, there's one real root. So we can do it. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. So we're going to say cube root of, I'm just going to delete this a little, negative 1,000. And look, negative 10. So negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10 is a negative 1,000. Okay. So if we wanted to find the real fourth roots of 1, negative 0.0001, and then 16 over 81, we can do that, again, using our same calculator, except instead of a 3, we're going to find the real fourth root. So fourth root is obviously a 4. Okay, so for this one, we just take the fourth root of 1, which would be our 1, okay? But since 4 is even, that means there's 2 real roots. So not only is it a 1, but it's also a negative 1. Okay, so you have to be careful. If this is an even number, that means there's 2. Okay, let's do, so the fourth root of 1 would be a 1 and a negative 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, but negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is also 1, okay? Negative 0.0001, okay, so I'm going to go to the calculator and let's try this. So we're looking for the, so our fourth root of negative 0.000, nope. Negative 0.0001. Okay, well, what is it? Oh, it's undefined because a is a negative number. Okay, so there is no real root of that. And I think the other one was 16 over 81. So the fourth root of, and then we just do 16, and then divided by 81. When we look, it's 0.66667, or we can say this. So that's one real root, but the other one is negative 2/3. So we have a positive 2/3 and we have a negative 2/3. Okay, so those are the 2 real roots there. So I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so again, what is the real each number root? So the cube root of negative 8. So we're trying to find, and we can just literally put this in our calculator. This would be negative 2. Because negative 2 is negative 2 times negative 2 gives us negative 8. Same with this. This one, so if we take the square root, if you notice there's no number here, so that's just like kind of, it's a 2. Since we're looking for the square root, that's 2. So the 2 numbers that multiply to get 0.04, that would be 0.2. Okay, the fourth root of negative 1, there is no fourth root because negative 1 you can't do, since 4 is even, you can't do that root. And that one, square root of 2 is 4, negative 2 is 4, square root of 4 is 2. Okay, so there you go. So let's do some with variables, okay? So I'm going to show you kind of the longer way, but also a shortcut. So what is the simpler form of each radical expression? So what is the square root of 16? X to the 8th power. Okay, so we can expand this. So that would be, obviously the square root of 16 is 4. I hope everyone knows that. If not, let's kind of go over it. So we have 16 is 4 and 4. Okay, so 4 times 4 is our 16. And then we have 8 x's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 pairs of x's. Okay, so the square root of 16 is 4. And the square root of 8x would be x to the 4th power. Okay, so you can expand it, circle your pairs, or like in this case would be your 3s, or in this case would be your 4s. Or, we know this is to the radical 2, right? So we can just take this number and divide it by this. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So you have your 4 x's. Okay, so let's look at b. So we have the cube root of a to the 6th and b to the 9th. So instead of writing a 6 times, writing b 9 times, and then circle the trios, we could just take 6 divided by 3 is 2, so that would be a to the 2nd power. And then a 9 divided by 3 is 3, so that would be b to the 3rd power. Easy as that. Okay, here are the fourth root. So we have x to the 8th and y to the 12th. So instead of writing it all out, we can just say we have x to the 8 divided by 4 would be 2, and then 12 divided by 4 would be 3. Okay? And that is that. So I think that's it. Okay, so MathXL 6.1, you guys have 9 questions. Let us know if you have any questions.